A very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Magandang umaga, tanghali, hapon, at gabi sa inyong lahat, wherever you're located and whatever your time zone is. This is your hour, and I'm Rita Gadi together with my partner, Bono ADAZA. This afternoon, we're going to tackle something which is of great value to many of us, not just to those who go to church every day, but to all of those who believe in a certain religion, and that is we're coming to this particular platform now precisely because we've had, well, I don't want to use that word, but we call it interference coming from the men of the cloth who use the pulpit to come into their statements as far as politics are concerned. Well, let's go back to in time where all of this began. They say that in history, Bono, even during the time of the Neanderthals and the Paleolithic ages of the cave dwellers, they already had the belief of an afterlife. They saw this in some of the carvings and paintings they had in the caves. And what was quite indicative of this was they buried their dead with a number of herbs beside their dead. So it is not just to keep the body smelling well, but for the afterlife, that they might be able to use these herbs when they would need it. So anyway, we see this also like in Egypt, for instance, which was thousands of years ago. And that was the preparation they always had practically all their life for the afterlife. They had a big boat and filled with things that they will be using in the afterlife, and also even members of their household, etc. So even in ancient times here in our country, the Chinese that settled in the villages, they had their utensils and many of their belongings buried with them. But what am I talking about? Well, as far as history is concerned, we've had, Bono, how many religions? Hinduism, one of the oldest of the religions, very philosophical. You're aware of this, one of the Upanishads, of course, and all of this. And then Buddhism, which is not really a religion. It is a way of asceticism, where you have all of these monks just praying, begging for food, but living in these temples up there in the Himalayas, in Lhasa, and then all of this. And then you had Judaism, which predates even Jesus Christ. He was born into that particular century where you had the Pharisees and the scribes with whom he always had in conflict, because he was only espousing just one law, and that is love God with all your heart, your mind, and your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. But that was Judaism, which still continues up to this day, Torah. And then Islam came in the 7th century, which is a completely different religion altogether. The dreams and the apparitions of angels and of God to Muhammad, who eventually had the Quran, which is their Bible, and then, of course, Muhammad's own writings, the Hadith. So these are the 5 major religions of the world. Hinduism, Buddhism, if you would call it such, but that is a way of life. And then you have Judaism, which still continues with the Jews in Israel. And then Christianity, with Jesus Christ in the year 33 with 12 apostles. It spread throughout the world up to this day. And then you had, because of Christianity, colonialism, Bono. Columbus landed with the cross. Magellan landed here 500 years ago, also with the cross. Up to now, they're debating where the first mass was said. But then Christianity spread to be one of the most predominant religions in the world. Now, let's talk about our country, the Philippines. We are predominantly Catholic, but they don't want to call it Catholic, predominantly Christian. Okay, so Christian. But then again, people forget that our religion should be part of our way of life. Well, Islam is part of their way of life. Everything to them belongs to what is written in the Quran. Bono, they follow, it's all inshallah, whatever Allah so says. Dito sa atin, we're Catholics, but it is separated from our daily lives. We go to church only holidays of obligation. We remember the dead and the souls as of today. and in other Catholic festivities, fiestas. But on a day-to-day basis, Bono, we don't really participate in the religious kind of life. So yan. Well, nagkaroon ng separation sa Christianity before. So who was this? You were talking earlier, Bono, about Henry VIII, who had his own. The only church is the Church of England by Henry VIII because he wanted the divorce, and the Pope would not grant him that. Then you had the Reformation of Martin Luther, who discovered that the church was selling indulgences and selling positions to be a saint. I just discovered in church history, Bono, would you believe, the Vatican took 120 years to build, and the money that they were using to build the Vatican, this is there in Rome, Bono, came from the payment that people gave for indulgences. Binabayaran pala yun, and so forth. So now we have the church also, we have to pay. We have to pay for baptism, we have to pay for marriages, we have to pay for sacraments, etc. and all. But Christianity should have been such that if we go back to the time of Christ, who had this religion taught to us in the year 33 AD, it's a different thing altogether today. Diba? Sabi nga ni Pope Francis, Bono, why are all these churches so pompous and they live like kings and princes of the church and all of that? But then there was a time that yung churchmen were also the head of the political territory. Saint Thomas was known as the Saint Thomas of Canterbury, di ba, Bono? He was the one who did not grant, he was murdered in the cathedral, but he was also the head of Canterbury. And ganun din all throughout. And then you had popes who also bought their positions, who were relatives, and they had their cousins, etc., appointed. And then there was the separation of church and state now, because the church was interfering or becoming also the political masters of communities. Now we have the situation here in our country, Bono. We're supposed to be a predominantly Christian country. We were baptized when Magellan came 500 years ago. Our datus were all converted to Christianity. There were a lot of ceremonies regarding this. But what happened? Somewhere in our history, nawala na yung the Catholicism already was no longer part of the daily lives. Even kaya nga you had the novels of Rizal, precisely because of the abuse of the frailes. So it is so different from Islam, because Islam went on in the same manner that it did during the time of Muhammad to this day. So Bono, why is there now a separation of church and state when there is nobody, there is no institution that ought to take care of our souls or help us take care of our souls? We are body, mind, and spirit. Pero yung spirit natin, bahala na tayo, to each his own. Where is this coming from, Bono?
You know, the separation of church and state is an inheritance from the United States of America. It's the great men of the United States of America, starting with Thomas Jefferson, that introduced the concept of separation of church and state. Because great men like Thomas Jefferson did not believe in religion and did not like religious interference into government affairs. So the provision in their constitution was there, separation of church and state. And as a colony of the United States of America, that provision found itself in our constitution up to this day. All right, our constitutions have been amended several times, maybe revised several times, but the provision on separation of church and state remains. I think it should remain, but it's not being implemented well in this country. To begin with, Rita, I'm Roman Catholic, by the way. I was born Roman Catholic. I'm still Roman Catholic up to this day, despite my disagreements with some Roman Catholic practice. And I hope to die a Roman Catholic, even if no priest will be around to give me the final blessing. But, you know, Catholicism and Christianity in this country, or wherever you find it, except in few communities, is dichotomous. It's dichotomous, meaning it's good in words, but not in action. Good in prayers, intoning prayers, but not in action. Like the Calvinists, for instance, who believe in prayer in action, meaning the prayer should be in action, not just in words, And that's the correct one from my point of view. And Roman Catholicism, by the way, in the way it's implemented in the Philippines, is embarrassing. It embarrasses Jesus Christ. It embarrasses the whole institution itself because, based on my own experience, Rita, I want to talk about my own personal experience.
Yes.
The president talks about his personal experience. In many towns, in Bohol and in Camiguin, the priests are supposed to be celibate. But
I'm sorry for laughing out loud.
They have girlfriends and they have children. It's not, I don't know whether it's true in other places, but I can speak with authority in Camiguin and in Bohol, because Bohol is where my mother comes from and where my grandfather comes from my father's side. And we see that spectacle everywhere. But here, I had a good judge. Our judges, by the way, before when I was practicing law in Misamis Oriental, came from the University of the Philippines. Good ones, Arieta, Gorospe, and Teves. Judge Teves was mayor of Davao City, by the way, and comes from Cebu, and later became a judge in Cagayan de Oro City. He was telling me, I don't like to mention the other judge. Oh no, do you see him? Yes, I see him in the cathedral, St. Augustine Cathedral. I see him also. By God, the way he confesses, he takes communion, he close eyes, going back to his chair. But after the church, he goes to his corrida. I mean, that's a concrete example of dichotomy. Not only with respect to judges or etc., with respect to ordinary Filipinos. Non-observance of what they intone to be correct. To be honest, many government officials, individuals are dishonest, private or public. Love your neighbor. God's sake, they don't love their neighbors. Public officials and even as private individuals, they rob their neighbors. In the words of the Japanese, you have a public official who robs you. I mean, even his wife.
It's the pronunciation of the letter L and R, yeah.
I heard that. Again, Rita, it happened in the inauguration of the Philippines Inter Corporation. The Japanese guest from Kobe Steel, who was the guest speaker, said that. So here also, we have many public officials who robs us, and their wives who even robs us more. How can you say that this is really a truly Catholic and Christian country? Corruption. God's sake, in the words of President Duterte, corruption is rampant in the Philippines. Not only now, but even before him, it's rampant. And he is even helpless because according to him, many of the government officials are his enemies. That's in the words of President Duterte. I'm quoting him because I listened to him delivering many speeches in this country. So that shows, the dichotomous behavior of Filipinos. And Rita, one time, when I was running for senator and Joey Laurel was running for president, he was telling me, Bono, let's go to this rally of one of the biggest born-again Christians. We'll get a lot of votes there. I said, Oy, you go yourself. I'm not going there. God's sake. Why am I not going there? Wave a handkerchief. Invert your umbrella. Letting people dance, including some presidential candidate, dance and sing. No. That's not my cup of tea, boy. when I ran for governor, nobody could tell me, even my campaign manager, Ruben Canoy, to sing or to dance. I'm not planning to become a dancer or a singer. I am planning to be governor of my province and to be able to do my service well. Now, though, I'm also planning to become a good senator, a good legislator. I'm not going to be waving my etc. No. That's not my cup of tea. And another time, Rita told me, we should go to this church. We should talk with the head of the church because it's a big following. I said, no, I'm sorry, that's not my cup of tea. Because I don't believe that a church has any authority to tell their parishioners whom to vote for. That to me is immoral, unethical, and even illegal. Which they can be free. They can be free to criticize the government in the same manner that anybody in government is free to criticize the churches. But to instruct their own people to vote for a set of candidates or for a candidate, that's wrong. It's unethical, it's immoral, and it's even illegal. That should stop it. Otherwise, if that doesn't stop, one day in the future, some presidents who must have taken notice of what Henry VIII did in England will demolish all of them and organize a church not loyal to anybody, but loyal
Only
to God
England,
and
yes.
to country. Yes,
Yes.
loyal to God and country, not contributing any money to anybody outside the country. That's a useless exercise from my point of view. So they better be careful. They can go ahead, criticize the mayor, the governor for his immoral behavior, but they should be careful that they are not immoral and they are not unethical, because it's like the pot calling the kettle black. We should not have that. We have that in this country.
Yes.
The pot calling the kettle black when both of them are black.
Black.
That should never be the case.
Yes,
So,
yes, yeah. Yes,
a
Bob.
leader should be ethical, should be moral, should behave in accordance with the Constitution and the laws of God. No, if they don't believe in, many humanists, Rita, don't have their own God. Yeah, some of them are agnostics, but many of the humanists are even better than Christians. I know. I've been reading many of their books, and they are more Christians than me or any Christian I've met. The humanists, not the individuals who denounce. There's no sense denouncing your God, my God, his God, the best God. There is no such thing as the best God. There is only one God.
One God, indeed.
One God.
Exactly.
Your God is as good as mine. Many of these priests, pastors saying that the religion is the best. No, there's no such thing as the best religion. Any religion is as good for as long as it's ethical, it's moral, and obeys God's law and the laws of the country in accordance with the Constitution, because the Constitution is based on the moral law. It's based on God's law. As a matter of fact, the American Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson and approved by the United States of America at the beginning, is, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They're endowed by their creator, with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to achieve this end, governments are instituted among men. You see, the laws of God and the laws of man are congruent.
Yes, that is what happened. Yeah, exactly.
One correspondent.
Yeah.
There is no truth that is yours and mine. There's only one truth.
Exactly.
What is the color of black? Like this. You cannot say that this is yellow. This is not yellow. This is gray. Some people call yellow red. Red, yellow. No. There is only one truth. And the churches in this country and our leaders, national or local, should take that into consideration so that this country will be better. Will be better. You know, once upon a time when my father was mayor of our town, the men, when the priest starts delivering in the pulpit and the pulpit is elevated,
Yes, yes.
town it's elevated.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
the time he delivers his sermon, all the men get out of the church and start conversing outside. It was my father who told them, no, everybody goes back there. You listen to him in the same manner that you are listening to me outside the church. If he's wrong, we tell him later that he's wrong. And if I'm wrong, you tell me anytime, whether it's in church or outside the church. That's how it should be. We should converse in a manner that is civil. According to Vice President Peláez, quoting his Spanish statement, no cortés, no quita lo valiente. Courtesy does not make you any less valiant.
Any less, yeah.
Why should we be shouting at each other? We have the best religion, we have the best God, we have the best something. We should be sitting down, conversing together, and as we are doing it now, no? That's how it should be.
Yeah, that's exactly what has been happening, Bono. In the passage of time, and after several civilizations where people are supposed to be civilized, you speak of that dichotomy, you were mentioning this, where there is the separation of the ordinary civil life and the life of morality and ethics, which refers to that particular aspect which is separated. So that is what I was questioning. The separation of church and state does not necessarily mean that, you know, you have to separate your belief in something that is moral and something that is ethical. I still do not see, yeah, exactly. And that there should not be any interference. But then again, the interference should be such that, you remember how it was in ancient times? The civil code, or even before that, was a moral code. The Maragtas and the Kalantiao were moral codes. They were ethical codes. Even Roman law began with what is correct, what is right, what is moral. And then you speak of the divine law. That was how it was also in ancient times. Even though they had different gods, like the Greeks had Zeus and Apollo and all of this, still they knew the demarcation line between what is evil and what is good. See, they did not have saints at the time, but they knew exactly what is moral. That is where we have lost that particular aspect in our lives. What is ethical and what is moral, because that is where the conscience actually is located. We have that expression, di ba, Bono? Parang wala kang konsyensya. What does it mean? Di ba? Walang konsyensya. Masama ang konsyensya niya. It refers to that inherent quality in human beings, which really is the moral fiber. We have lost that. And we think that, not we think, but there ought to be that institution. That is why, that is exactly what Jesus Christ preached in Christianity, in Catholicism. Love God and love your neighbor. It is not being followed because it's being compartmentalized. The dichotomy, as you said, priests getting married secretly or openly. That's exactly why Jose Rizal had to write these 2 novels that he had, which really ignited the friars, the frailes. Many of us, not many of us, but some of us have sangre, sacred blood. Why? Because our great-grandfather, or somehow was a parish priest somewhere, and and sired several children. So yeah, that was happening then, 500 years ago, and all throughout the Spanish colonization of our country. It happens today. Recently, how long ago was this? Just a couple of years ago, Bono. The CBCP had a secret meeting. I was informed of this by one of those who attended, one of the bishops who attended. He does not want to be identified, but he relayed this to me for prayers that I could perhaps help out with what you call, several prayers that they need. I said, why? Well, we had the secret meeting and we decided that among ourselves, let us confess, yung mga nagkaroon ng anak, anong nangyari dun sa mga anak ninyo? You know, who is taking care of them? So let us try to have this parang secret understanding sa kanila that they will put up a fund so that, you know, you have committed a mistake, you sired a child, but you confessed and you were forgiven, pero may anak ka, saan yung bata, sino mag-aalaga? So they thought of that fund. So for every priest, magkumpisal na, ilabas na, for them to come out, okay, I have one son or I have one daughter. So they were trying to do the arithmetic. Ilan na ba yan na nagkaanak na pare? Para they will know how old this baby's children are and how long it will take for them until they get to a proper education. You know what they discovered? They gave up already somewhere while they were discussing it. Aba, yung isang pare pala, 3-4 yung anak. So there was the multiplier effect. So it's not just one priest and one child. Marami pala. Anyway, so you could see that even in contemporary times, this is still going on.
Yeah, Rita.
Yeah.
Let me contribute a personal touch on this. You know. I have a cousin, Dr. Marivi ADAZA David. She's a practicing doctor here in Metro Manila. I won't identify the place. She's doing a family study of the ADAZAs, of the ADAZA brothers, because she informed me that there were 8 ADAZA brothers, 7, 4 went to Zamboanga province, 1 went to Misamis Occidental, and 2 went to Misamis Oriental. You know, they had to leave Bohol because it seems to me they were in the rebel class. No? They were rebellious. You're not friendly to the government, so they left. So what can you tell me, B? You know that in my study of our family tree, that our great-great-grandfather was a French priest in Bohol. For God's sake. French priest from Bohol. How did that happen? Well, maybe it's only my nose that that I inherited from him, because my eyes is very Chinese. But I'm not really Chinese, but that's the eyes of the Higaunon in northern Mindanao. Because my grandfather is Higaunon, by the way. And my grandmother on my father's side was Higaunon.
So somewhere in your lineage, in your ancestry.
Yes, somewhere along the way, every one of us must have some problems. But when I was informed by my cousin, I said, by God, better that he is my great-great-grandfather. I don't know him, because I will denounce him in person if he were my grandfather. That's all. I'll do that. No? Because I really am enraged by behavior, not only of the priest, but our people who are very dichotomous. You know, they lecture to us about honesty when we know that they are dishonest. They lecture to us about morality when we know that they are immoral. They lecture about everything that's opposite of their behavior. That's bad. That's very bad.
That's
because
yeah.
A leader in a community should be the #1 teacher. However, there's an exception, by the way. According to Father James McMahon, the most brilliant Catholic I've ever met, president of Ateneo de Manila, president of Xavier University. He's a chapter in my book, Capturing the Moment. You know what Father McMahon told me, and he could not convince me when he was alive, that a president or a leader of a country is beyond the pale of the moral law insofar as man-woman relations concerned. You know, is that, Father? Because if you don't allow him that privilege, with a caveat, however, that if he has a relation with a woman other than his wife, there must only be 3 persons, as you know. Who? The woman, he, and God, because he can't deny it from God. If there's a 4th man, the whole world will know about it. He will destroy his country, he will destroy himself, he'll destroy his family. So that should be the caveat all the time. I was debating with him because, you know, in our town, the gossipy town, keeps on saying gossip about my father, so I disputed him. But one day I read a book of the life of Janio Quadros, very devout Roman Catholic, the most intellectual president of Brazil. And after 6 months in office, he had to quit and go to a sanitarium. Why? He could not be unfaithful to his wife. He could not follow the McMahon principle because he was going insane because of the temptation surrounding him. So he quit and went to the sanitarium. And I said, McMahon is correct. I better apologize to him and fly to New York. You know, the week before, when I was intending to fly to New York, what happened? He died. By God. That's why I keep on apologizing every time I intone my evening prayer to Father James McMahon.
So that's the way human civilization has become, church or no church, and with the church involved in so many of our daily affairs. And that's the dichotomy that you were talking about precisely. And we came upon this topic this afternoon, Bono, precisely because we have a man of the cloth who says that if a candidate is offering money to you, then just accept the money and don't vote for the candidate that this candidate wants you to vote for.
That should be the case, but it's illegal.
So
for the candidate to give money, for the voter to receive money, and it's even more illegal if he votes in accordance with the money.
And then, of course, this man of the cloth is saying that tanggapin mo na lang yung pera kasi baka nangangailangan ka and so forth, you know. But several years back, he was condemning precisely that action, that you should not accept bribe money at any cost, you know, at any time. But then now he's saying that pwede naman kasi mahirap ang panahon, etc. Baka kailangan mo, you know, justifying that immoral act of accepting money to vote for somebody else. So that is the reason why now this is the question that I have posed. If there is a separation of church and state, and then you have this men of the cloth talking in such a manner that they are able to justify an immoral act in accordance with their own teachings, as you said, whatever they say in the church seems to be ex cathedra, from the chair, infallible, etc., and all of that. So that is the danger, because this is not the first time that the men of the cloth have come out with political statements and with a lot of following that believe in them. So where does the line, where are we to draw the line? When, as I've said, there is a need for people, religious people, whether they are imams or whether they're Buddhist monks or whether they're Hindu priests or whatever, the gurus, there is something that they ought to take care of precisely, and that is our moral behavior, our ethical behavior, and should not interfere in politics. So where do we draw the line? Because our political life is our daily life. That's precisely it. Right now, everybody's involved. I receive a lot of text messages, Bono. Paano ba ako makakasali sa kampanya? Saan ba ako makakuha ng campaign materials? Magkano bang binibigay pag magvo-volunteer? Imagine, magkano ibibigay kung magvo-volunteer? So it is now the occupation of the day until May next year. So where does the church, how far should the church go in? Any church for that matter? Or should the church come in at this particular stage? Or should it not? See, we speak of morality and ethical standards, but we seem to separate that particular aspect of our lives, which is so important, which is our basis as a human being. So
I have a prescription for that priest. I'm not a doctor, but he should see a psychiatrist. He needs his head to be examined. You know, I'm not trying to say that I'm an angel, because I'm not. I'm not an angel in many ways. But I want to convey to our friends, you know, and people who want to ambition to be leaders of this country, that I have personal experiences, Rita, of one time when I was commissioner of immigration. One of my boys in immigration was a lawyer, said, "Sir, there is already here a dismissal from the regional trial court. We still have him here. I think we should release him. And you know, sir, he's willing to pay 50 million pesos to you."
Wow, to retain
I
his
said,
position.
yeah, in order to have him released. So only under a court order.
Oh.
You better not say that again to me, because you'll be in trouble. The jurisdiction of the court is different. My jurisdiction is different. I have every right to keep him here. So tell his lawyers to go anywhere, including hell.
Oh, the 50 million is for what, Bono? I did not
50
quite
million,
get.
just to release him from our detention center. But
Okay.
he was kept there because he had no visa.
Uh-huh.
He was
He had the violation. That is why he was detained.
Yeah, he was detained because of a violation of the immigration law. He was tried in another case with no relation to the immigration law. So I said, no, that's a different jurisdiction. The jurisdiction here is mine.
And was willing to pay 50 million.
50 million. You know, Rita, when I left immigration, I don't like to mention because special names will be involved. Somebody received the 50 million. Another example, you know, member of parliament and later executive secretary of Fidel Ramos, a personal friend of mine who comes from Agusan del Sur. Agusan del Sur. I don't like to mention the time frame because there might be a lot of identification of who and what and which. He approached me one day. Dudoy, we call each other Dudoy. Someone, a group of businessmen wants you to leave the country. Check in the Walter Reed Hospital, pretend that you're sick, and your family will go there. Go, really?
Oh, they want to get rid of you.
Yeah, they want to get rid of me. And he said, you know, Dudoy, there is $100 million for you here. So what's your interest in the 100? No. My interest is they'll give me $5 million if I can persuade you. She said, Dudoy, let me tell you this. You know, we've been friends for a long time. I think you don't know me. But let me tell you, for the first time, that my legendary father, who's mayor of our town, told me a lesson in my life, and my younger brothers who were also lawyers. When wealth is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. But when character is lost, everything is lost. So, Dudoy, I don't like to dishonor my father. I believe with that principle for years. 100 million, I can earn that because I'm a good lawyer. I can earn that in my lifetime. And he said, Dudoy, you must hate money. No, I don't hate money. My God, who does not need money? But money will earn, not that way. No, but this is not bribery. Oh, no, Dudoy, don't tell me that it's not bribery.
By any other name, it smells.
Why
the rose by any other name will just smell exactly as it is.
No. Forget it. Just smile away. Smiled. We talked lunch after that, and we remained friends. But he knew my message. I'm not saying that ADAZA is an angel. Maybe in some ways I may not have an angel, and I regretted my act. But in matters that involves the country, God and country, telling the truth or telling a lie, being honest or dishonest, being a good official or bad official, I know what I'm doing. So I don't care if the world denounces me for what I am. That's their business.
Not yours.
Keeping my character, my integrity is also mine.
So you came up with a very important word, character. What exactly does it contain as far as politicians are concerned, as far as priests are concerned? Character. What is it that is so important that once you lose your character, or once you do not even take care of it, or once that you do not even mind it, because there are many things that you compromise with. So what happens? You lose everything. But does it really matter to people who, sabi nga, walang character? They've told that told character to sit in a corner and just stay there for a while they go their merry way. That is precisely what I'm leading on to, Bono. The care of that aspect of our lives, which is so important. And what is that? The spiritual aspect. Diyan ang gagaling yung character, precisely.
Correct.
You have the body, we are composed of body. I always say this, body, mind, and spirit. The body, we have proper nutrition. We know all of this. We get lessons from even Steve Jobs has been saying, make food your medicine so that one day you do not make medicine your food. So the intake we have is for the nutrition of our body. We exercise, we go under the sun, etc. Our minds, fine. You said we get educated at 3 years old. You graduated and entered pre-law at 16 and so forth. Our mind is taken care of. The soul, Bono, the spirit, that is where the character comes from the abstract, that which you cannot touch, but that which is part of that which elevates you as a human being, precisely. That is so important. And we have institutions that ought to help us take care precisely of that. Or we have lost it. As I've said, we have put our beliefs in taking care of the soul. We have dichotomized, how you call it. There's the dichotomy precisely. Morality, ay itabi muna yan. Wag muna. Kasi kailangan ito. We have to compromise, we have to settle, we have to do this. Men of the cloth, they do preach other things that will be able to justify their actions. And they do things in order to justify their actions. And you know how it is. You just ask forgiveness and you're forgiven. And that's it. You can go your merry way again. So that is where I'm asking that question. When you separate the care of the soul, which ought to be taken care of by people in the church, whatever church you belong to, you know, it's so unlike in Islam, Bono. So Islam, everything they do is part of the religion. Lahat. When they wake up 5 times a day, they pray. My goodness. When they have family relations, they look at the Quran and what properties, etc. It's all there. Ang simple lang ng divorce sa kanila. Sabihin lang ng lalaki, I divorce you 5 times. That's it. Wala nang hassle. Ayaw mo na. That's it. Inshallah, we leave it to Allah. You know, do you see Muslims begging in the street? No. Because part of the religion, one of the pillars they have is the zakat. They have to give and take care of the less fortunate. But pero dito sa Christianity, Columbus, as I said, landed in America, may dalang cruise. Nagland dito sa atin, Magellan, and then several years after Legazpi, nagmisa pa, lahat 500 years. Catholic, Bono. Saan naghiwalay yung paniniwala sa sinasabi nga natin morality and ethical standard, which is the care of the soul? You separate the church and the state. So, this is what happens.
The separation, Lita, in church and state is the church cannot dictate to the government. They can criticize. It's separate there. The government cannot also tell the church what to do. But the public officials, the leaders can criticize.
Yeah, you don't need a law for that.
The church should be required to pay taxes. Why?
Again,
why should they be required to pay taxes? Because the contributions of the people come from the people. They should pay taxes. I understand there are some churches that are requiring tithing.
Yes. 10% of their income.
It should be government that should be tithing is taxes.
Yes.
Right? Taxes, okay. They should pay taxes. Why should they be exempt from paying taxes?
Why?
Precisely. There is no reason why they should be exempt from paying taxes. There is separation of church and state.
Will they be better churchmen if they pay taxes?
They should pay taxes. they will not cease to be churchmen. The unity of church and state is in the ethics, morals, and conduct.
That is what I'm driving at, Bono.
That is where the unity should be.
Yes.
That's where the unity. There should be no congruence. There should be congruence.
That is what I'm driving at.
And state, insofar as that is concerned. But on the level of the material,
yeah,
don't expect any congruence. For instance, churches lobbying for generals to be appointed because they are members of the church. That's in violation of separation of church and state. For instance, the president or a group of leaders lobbying that somebody should become an archbishop or somebody should become a pope.
Saint
that
or
is
saint.
in violation of church and state. That's violation.
Exactly.
But criticism
But isn't that very
can be
clear?
done.
Yeah.
Any individual can criticize the church, and the church can criticize the behavior of people. You know, Rita, I'm a Roman Catholic who goes to church every Sunday, not to church, to hear the mass in television. Television. And I have developed an allergy like Claro M. Recto. You know, Senator Claro M. Recto was Roman Catholic, but he was also a Mason, by the way. So he didn't like to go to church because of listening to the sermons, it's called homily now. Before they were called sermons. But one day, his wife forced him to attend a mass in the Malati Church, Malati Cathedral. And you know, there was a young Gregorian, young priest, who just came from the Gregorian University. And Recto was intently listening to the homily. And after that, I should go to church, especially if this priest will be the one delivering the homily. Like me, for instance. You know, I don't like to, this is not a secret to me. I go to the SBD Healing Eucharistic Mass. No?
The Divine Word.
Yeah, there's one priest there I like delivering the homily because he researches. He reads books. And every time he delivers the homily, there is a connection between the books that he reads and also
the gospel of the day.
And also the gospel. You know, I'm referring to Father Paul Glenn Gomez. I like him. No? I like him. I'm not saying that I hate the others, I dislike the others, but I just like John Paul Gomez in the same manner that I like Father McMahon, in the same manner that I'm the Jesuit Father John Delaney.
Father Delaney, yes.
In UP.
But
and the priest, and the priest in the old town of Patarman, I still remember their names. They were Irish, Father Requine and Father Bittner. They're all Jesuits.
We should have more of them, actually. And that's exactly what the Pope now said. Your homily should be something that first, it would be interesting enough for people to listen to you. Brief, make it brief so that people will not get bored and connect it precisely to the Word of God, which is the gospel.
You know, Rita, there is a tradition in our town. No? Katarman, Kamigi now, it used to be with Misa Misorienta. Every Holy Week, no? The 7 last words are not delivered by priests. They're delivered by laymen or laywomen in our town, giving it a new touch. The sermons in the Holy Week, a new touch, and it's an accelerating experience. You know, the church, me, if I were the Roman Catholic leader, I will adopt the approach of Father Gustavo Gutierrez, the head of the Theology of Liberation, because Christianity is a liberating force. It's not a force for slavery, which is the approach in many Catholic countries, even in Latin America and many countries, including the Philippines. No, we are trained to be slaves. No, that should not be the case. Catholicism and Christianity is a liberating force. it should be used to elevate the human person,
Precisely.
spiritually and physically, elevate him morally. That should be the objectives of the Christian churches here in the Philippines. They better start re-examining their approaches to our religion, because it's not producing good Filipinos. It's
That is,
producing millions of dichotomous Filipinos. They think that this is Christianity or Catholicism. It's not. It's not. They are dishonoring Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is a revolutionary, liberating force. That's what Jesus Christ is.
that is
I
exactly.
pray and I hope that the churches, Christian churches here, will listen to outsiders like you and me. Outsiders, we're not priests, we're not pastors, but we are interested in the faith of our people and in the faith of the Christian and other churches here in the Philippines, because the churches are designed to make better human beings, better Filipinos. It's not designed
There is
to
so
make
much.
slaves.
Yeah, there is really so much that we have to revise or re-educate ourselves with.
Correct.
Because
Revision of the whole curriculum.
that is one. And for instance, like our practices in church, there was a time for, I think, for many, many years until I got to college, our holy sacrifice of the Mass were in Latin. And the music was the Gregorian chant. And we knew the Latin translation
That
in
was
English.
the best, Rita, the best.
Yes, because you
Those
know,
are the best years.
precisely.
Santo Mirgo, Sacramento.
Yes, Confiteor Day, you know, and all of this. Kyrie eleison. We have memorized this, but we knew exactly the translation. We knew what it meant. But you know, that ritual elevates us to a different level. It is a spiritual level where you enter the territory of God in a manner that you offer a sign of respect. Look at, here I go again. Islam, for instance, they do not have translations in their native languages. No, they have to learn Arabic in order to be able to read the Quran. They have to know
Catholic
Arabic.
Church should re-examine that.
Yes, and they chant this. They even have contests chanting, you know, the different passages in their Quran, and it is the same manner in Latin in our church, in the Catholic Church. When you start, even at the beginning, you know, like for instance, Gloria in excelsis Deo. My goodness, just the first line that is said already elevates you into the heavens.
Rita, let me tell you my experience.
Yeah.
I've been to Rome, attended Mass in Rome, and she is familiar because it's the same chants in our church. St. Patrick's in New York, the same. Notre Dame in Paris, the same. By God. Now, even in our country, we feel like strangers.
We have difficulty, for instance, I have difficulty personally following many of these Tagalog versions.
Universal practice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm losing you. We're having problems with the sound. Bono, you were saying about practices in church, and that is why, you know, as you said, Latin is the universal language as far as many of our prayers and the holy sacrifice of the Mass. But there was this, you know, the period of Vatican I and Vatican II where they decided to bring it down to the language of, you know, of the locality. And I lost a lot of this spiritual feeling every time, you know, anyway. So that's the way, that's exactly what I'm driving at. Yeah.
Universal. Catholic meaning universal. It seems to be universal.
Exactly.
That's my point. In the church, in the Philippines, when I go to another church here in my neighborhood, by gum, our Father is sung differently. Even the English version has a different musical tone. Why should that be the case?
Yes, and then sometimes you have them even dancing You know,
Yes.
anyway, so these are actually just the fancy ornaments, so to speak. But the essence of it goes back to exactly what you're saying, Bono. The formation of character begins there, in your soul, in your spirit, in your conscience, in your heart. That is where, as I've said, if the church is separated from the state, fine, so as not to interfere in political affairs or in civil affairs. But the church should be, as you said, congruent with the life of the citizens themselves.
That's why, Rita,
Yeah. Yes, I'm having problems with the audio studio. Anyway, so I have Bono there, but I cannot hear what he's trying to say. But what we are driving at this particular stage is precisely that. Although certain laws will have...
I have my neighbor when they are so different from me.
Pardon, Bono, your neighbor is?
He's not different from me because he behaves differently. He's angry all the time. He doesn't like people. He doesn't like giving. He only wants receiving. How can you flock together? I'm not the same kind of birds as they are. Neighbor in the sense, not the immediate, the bigger community.
But
And tell me who are your companions, and I'll tell you who you are. How can I be in a group of politicians when if they look at me, they might think that these politicians are like me? No, I'm not like them. God's sake, no.
That's why somebody wants to give you $5 million or so, just so that you will be away from this mess of politicians.
Not 5 million, Rita. $100 million.
Oh my goodness.
5 million only for Idel Amante, and that's separate from the 100 million.
So that is where it goes, Bono. We still have to do a lot of study as far as that law is concerned to really find out the role of religious institutions with the life of human beings, of the citizens of a country, of the citizens of the Philippines. We are celebrating now 500 years of Spanish colonization, quincentennial or something, the 500th year. Can you imagine? Of this 500 years, 300 years of that time was actually under the Catholic priests and the Catholic as institutions, Jesuits, Dominicans, Augustinians, all of this. Have we improved at all from the time 1521 today? And afterwards, even with Vatican I and Vatican II, do we have people of a better moral character at this stage? Catholics, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, all of these religions converging, even Judaism, the Jews, and all of this. So what has religion done for the moral fiber that is so important in our lives? That's the question. We separate the church and the state, fine. But what is there that we have to join together so that we become better human beings, elevated in that level, not just of angels and saints, but all the way up to the next life for that matter?
First week of December, Rita, I'm coming out with a column in Diliman Way in Facebook on the 500 years of Christianity.
Very good, yes.
It's there to celebrate.
What I normally do is, we have a group in my family. I write a very long, my own homily. Like, for instance, the birth of Christ, I go back in time to how all of this began with Mary, etc. And then for Holy Week, I usually talk about the entrance into Jerusalem, and I record it as a broadcast journalist. If I were there in Jerusalem at the time when Christ was coming in on top of a donkey and the people were, saying hallelujah, and I was annotating. So that is how I proceed, but this is me in my own layman's way. But as I've said, Bono, the men of the cloth, Where are they? So that when I listen to them, I enter, the platform of the divine, where I could feel and sense God Himself through the words of this men of cloth. Instead of them saying, sige, tanggapin na lang niya yung pera kasi baka nangangailangan kayo, tapos iboto na lang niyo kung sinong gusto niyo. You not only lie to the person that's giving you the money, you commit also an immoral act for accepting a bribe. Anyway, and that is the reason why we have this program this afternoon, Bono.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to discuss these things with you. But in the words of our secretary who's been with us for 18 years, whenever she hears me delivering a lecture to every client in our office, there he is again, giving History 101.
Exactly.
History 101.
This is the way we are. That's why we started our program. Imagine, I started from the Paleolithic age, in the time of the Greeks, where they had all of these gods and all of this, and in the Egyptians, etc., and all the world religions, the 5 major religions. Let's look at those who greeted us today, Bono. This is Ava Kairi Ru from Hokkaido, Sapporo, Hokkaido. We had Winter Olympics there at one time. So now Facebook is changing its name to Meta, and it will introduce its video 1 hour. What is this? Video 1 hour, kailangan, etc. This has something to do with one of my videos. I will discuss this with you later, Bono. Mehias Daisy, dun ako sa hindi nagsusulong ng bakulam. Marilyn Togado, hello Ma'am Rita, and Sir Bono Adaza, salamat po sa inyong buhay. Palenggaling, Ophirian, no to religion yan, yung nagkakawatak-watak ang tao dahil sa religion na yan. Denny De Chavez, Madam Rita Gadi, forever. Well, anyway, God bless to you. God bless you. Jairus Abrasado, again, also greeting us. Reynaldo Eduardo, good afternoon. And also to you, Bono, good afternoon. Binker Blue, they have strange names, but I don't think they're posting their real names. Magandang hapon po, Attorney Adaza mula sa lalawigan ng Cavite. Raul Tuico, again, good afternoon to you, Bono HOMOBONO, for your full name. Lori Mamawag, ngayon po kasi ang church sobrang influence ng mga nakikialam sa eleksyon. Okay. Benjamin Absuelo, maayong hapon, former Assemblyman Bono Adaza, my idol. This is Benjamin Absuelo. Idol ka daw niya, Bono. Then we have Isaac.
Salamat naman. Thank you. And God bless.
Isaac Kawilan, good afternoon po from Australia. Sana po maging federal government na po tayo. Mapag-aralan na sana nila ito. Anyway, so several others, but those are the initial reactions, Bono. So again, we're grateful to all of you for greeting us this afternoon, this evening, or good morning, wherever you're located. Bono, I'd like to thank you for joining. Yes, thank you very much. We have other topics lined up for next week. So join us again. And this will be exactly as we've said, your hour. And this is Rita Gadi thanking you all, and also with the prayer that God will walk with us through this pandemic as it is ongoing now with this vaccination and so forth. So we hope for the best again from the great healer, the great physician, our Lord, our Creator, our Almighty God. Thank you for having joined us with Bono Adaza. This is Rita Gadi, and this has been your hour.
God bless.
I'm waiting for the Turkish march to exit, both of us. Anyway, Amadeus Mozart, thank you very much for this.
It's always a pleasure, you know.
Okay, Bono, good night. Have a nice day. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Always.
The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I promise is to keep and miles to go before I sleep. Miles to go before I sleep.
Before I sleep. And I shall take the road not taken. Well, we're not yet exiting, Bono. So
Nawala yata yung marcha.
nawala. Anyway, Roxanne, we're ending. That's it. Okay. So thank you again to all of those that have sent their messages. And once again, take care, follow the health protocols, and be safe always. As we have been told, eat your food as your medicine so that you don't take medicine as your food. So whatever else they tell us with the health protocol, let's just follow this. Are you vaccinated, Bono?
Yeah,
Twice already?
mine is Sinovac.
Okay.
The reason why I choose Sinovac, China invented coronavirus. So in the process of
That it's all the problem.
tried to prepare a vaccine for it. They are more authoritative than the other vaccine companies in the world.
Exactly. Let's hope for the best, Bono, because now we're down to 3,117 a day cases from 24 to almost 30,000 at one time about a month ago. So we're now under the quarantine level 3, and our economists are asking that we go down lower to level 2. And that means that more people can be able to move around, and hopefully our economy will start moving the way it should. And let's have a very good Christmas.
Yeah, let's have a good Christmas. I agree.
Okay, Bono, take care.
Okay, take care too, Rita, and regards to Freddie.